Have you ever been to a state capital and wondered how many total highways ran through its city limits? Well, originally I thought of this question when I visited a state capital a few weeks ago. I wondered how many US highways ran through it. Turns out there was only one. So I thought to myself, why not make a video out of it, but instead of just US highways, why not the total amount of highways? So that's what today's video is all about. We're going to be taking a look at each of the state's capitals and see how many total highways run through its city limits. Some state capitals may shock you, while others may surprise you. So let's get started. First up, we have Montgomery, Alabama, where we have two interstates as of right now that run through the city limits. A third one's coming soon, Interstate 685. And then we have 5 US highways. And then we also have 3 state routes that make a total of 10 highways that run through Montgomery. Next up, we have Juneau, Alaska, where since Alaska is pretty far north, you can assume that there are no interstates or no US highways. But you could assume that there is also no state routes, but you are wrong on that, as there is only one, Alaska Route 7, which makes a total of 1 highway that runs through Juneau. Here in Phoenix, Arizona, we have 2 interstates, 1 US highway, and 6 state routes, making a total of 9 highways that run through Phoenix. Here in Little Rock, Arkansas, we have 5 interstates, 1 US highway, and a whole bunch of different state routes, making a total of 12 highways that run through Little Rock. Here in Sacramento, California, we have 2 interstates, 1 US highway, and 3 state routes, making a total of 6 different highways that run through Sacramento. Now we're on to Denver, Colorado. So yay, this is going to be a fun one. First up, we have 5 different interstates, a lot of different US highways, 1 special highway, E470. The reason it's a special highway not categorized in a state highway is because E470 is technically owned by a committee and not owned by the state or the US government. And then we also have the category of state routes, which there are a whole lot of different of them. So that makes a total of 22 different highways. And you know what else is in Denver, Colorado? Lyman, 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 too many Lyman! Here in Hartford, Connecticut, we have 2 interstates, 2 US highways, and 2 state routes, making a total of 6 highways that run through Hartford. Here in Dover, Delaware, we have no interstates that run through Dover, because Dover is one of the few state capitals not to be connected by an interstate or have an interstate anywhere within its metro area. And then we only have 1 US highway, US 13, and then we have 4 state routes, making a total of 5 highways that run through Dover. Here in the state of Florida, we have 1 interstate, Interstate 10, 3 US highways, and a whole bunch of different state routes, which makes a total of 10 different highways that run through Florida. So, Atlanta, Georgia is famous for a lot of things. It's famous for the creation of Coca-Cola, Chick-fil-A, the 28-3 choke in Super Bowl 51, and it can also add having a lot of highways to its famous list, because it has 4 interstates, 6 US highways, a whole bunch of different state routes, which makes a total list of 25 different highways that run through Atlanta. Here in Honolulu, Hawaii, we have 2 interstates, no US highways because Hawaii is too far south to have US highways, but we do have 4 state routes, making a total of 6 highways that run through Honolulu. Here in Idaho, we have 2 interstates, 2 US highways, and 2 state routes, making a total of 6 highways that run through Boise. Here in Illinois, we have 2 interstates, 1 US highway, which is concurrent with Interstate 72, and 4 state routes, which makes a total of 7 highways that run through Springfield. Here in Indianapolis, we have 5 interstates, a whole bunch of different US highways, and only 3 state routes, which makes a total of 14 highways that run through Indianapolis. Honestly, I thought there would be a lot more in Indianapolis because it seems pretty big for a city. Here in Des Moines, Iowa, we have 1 interstate, and it's actually a 3-digit interstate. Interstate 35 comes really close to the city limits, but does not enter into the city limit itself, so that's why I did not include it. But if it was if I counted the metro area, then definitely Interstate 35 and Interstate 80 would have been included in the list. Anyways, moving on, we have also 3 US highways that run through the city limits of Des Moines, and 3 state routes, which makes a total of 7 highways. Like I said, if I was including the entire metro area, I would have also included Interstate 35 and Interstate 80. Here in Topeka, Kansas, we have 3 interstates, 3 US highways, and 1 state route that runs through Topeka, making it also a total of 7 highways. Here in Frankfort, Kentucky, we have 1 interstate, which comes incredibly close to the city limits. In fact, an entire lane of Interstate 64 westbound is actually in the city limits. And then we have 4 different US highways, along with 4 different state routes, making a total of 9 highways that run through Frankfort. Here in Louisiana, we have 3 interstates that run through Baton Rouge, along with 2 US highways, and again a whole bunch of state routes, which makes a total of 14 different highways in Baton Rouge. Here in Augusta, Maine, we have 1 interstate, Interstate 95, 2 US highways, US 201 and US 202 coincidentally, and a whole bunch of state routes, which makes a total of 12 different highways that run through Augusta, Maine. Here in Annapolis, Maryland, we have no interstates because Interstate 97 is technically west of the city limits. We have 2 US highways, US 50 and 301, and then we have a whole bunch of different state routes that all run through Annapolis, making a total of 8 different highways. Here in Boston, we have 2 interstates, 2 US highways, and a whole bunch of different state routes, which makes up a total of 13 different highways that run through Boston. Here in the state of Michigan, we have 3 interstates that run through Lansing, 1 US highway, and 2 different state routes, making a total of only 6 highways that run through this city limits. Here in St. Paul, Minnesota, we have 2 different interstates, 4 different US highways, and a whole bunch of different state routes, which makes a total of 10 different highways. Here in Jackson, Mississippi, we have 3 interstates, 3 US highways, and 2 state routes, which only makes up 8 highways that run through Jackson. Here in Jefferson City, this one is also a special case where an interstate does not connect to the capital or its metro. So there's no interstates here, but we do have 3 different US highways and 2 different state routes that run through Jefferson City, making a total of 5 highways. Here in Helena, Montana, we have Interstate 15, we have 2 US highways, and we have actually no state routes that run through Helena, which makes our total of highways 3. Here in Lincoln, Nebraska, we have 2 interstates, 3 US highways, and guess how many state highways run through Lincoln? It's another special case of no state routes that run through Lincoln, so that makes a total of 5 highways. Here in Carson City, Nevada, we have 1 interstate, 2 US highways, and another rare instance of no state routes, making it a total of 3 highways. Here in New Hampshire, we have 3 interstates, 3 US highways, and 4 state routes that all run through Concord, making a total of 10 different highways. Here in Trenton, New Jersey, we have no interstates. 295 is technically west and north of the city limits. And then we have 2 US highways and 4 state routes, making a total of 6 different highways that run through Trenton. Here in New Mexico, And this one is also a special case because Interstate 25 comes incredibly close to the city limits but does not enter it. So we have no interstates, only 2 US highways, and 5 state routes, which makes up a total of 7 different highways. Here in Albany, New York, we have 3 interstates, 3 US highways, and 5 state routes, making a total of 11 highways that run through Albany, New York. Here in my state of North Carolina, in Raleigh, we have 4 different interstates, a lot of different US highways, and 3 state routes that all run through the Raleigh city limits. And I'm pretty sure that out of the 12, only the US highways and state routes only have city limits sign. Hey NC-Dot, I have an idea. Why don't you put the city limit signs on the interstates, especially Interstate 87, because someone from out of town made a rant about it. Just please do it. Here in Bismarck, North Dakota, we have 2 interstates, 1 US highway, and only 2 state routes that run through Bismarck, making a total of 5 highways. Here in Columbus, Ohio, we have 4 interstates, 4 US highways, and a whole bunch of different state routes, which makes up a total of 14 different highways running through Columbus. So here in Oklahoma City, we have 4 different interstates, but once Oklahoma DOT turns over the turnpike shields to Interstates 344 and 335, then I'll add those to the list, but as of right now, they still have their turnpike shields instead of the interstate shields. And then we also have 3 different US highways, and then a whole bunch of different state routes, making a total of 14 highways as well. But soon that number will bump up to 16 once Oklahoma signs 344 and 335. Here in the state of Oregon, in Salem, we have 1 interstate, no US highways that run through Salem, and 4 state routes, which makes a total of 5 highways that run through Salem, Oregon. Here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, we only have 2 interstates, 1 US highway, and 1 state route that runs through Harrisburg, making up a total of 4 highways that run through the city limits. But that's still 4 highways that PennDOT can horribly sign. Hope they don't do that within the city limits of Harrisburg. Here in Rhode Island, we have 2 interstates, a lot of US highways, and a lot of state routes, making a total of 13 highways that run through the small city limits of Providence. Here in Columbia, South Carolina, I do not know why Columbia has this big chunk of land that has literally nothing in it. But anyways, for the interstates, we have 4 different ones, a whole bunch of different US highways, and a lot of state routes that run through Columbia, making it up a total of 16 highways. Here in Pierre, South Dakota, this is also another state capital that has no interstates anywhere near it. We have no interstates, but 2 US highways and 2 state routes, making a total of 4 different highways that run through South Dakota. Here in Nashville, Tennessee, we have 4 different interstates, a lot of different US highways, and a lot of different state routes, making a total of 22 highways that run through Nashville. Here in the state of Texas, we have 1 interstate that runs through Austin, 2 US highways that run through Austin, a few special routes because they're technically called loop state highways and not Texas state highways. And then as normal Texas state highways, we only have 3 of those, making it a total of 10 different highways. Here in Salt Lake City, Utah, we have 3 interstates, 1 US highway, and a lot of different state routes, making a total of 11 highways. Here in Montpelier, Vermont, we have 1 interstate, 2 US highways, and 1 state route, making a total of 4 different highways that run through Vermont. Here in Richmond, Virginia, we have 3 interstates, a lot of different US highways, and a lot of different state routes that run through Richmond, making a total of 19 different highways that run through Richmond. And then here in Washington State, we have 1 interstate, 1 US highway, and no state routes that run through Olympia, making a total of only 2 highways that run through Olympia. Here in Charleston, West Virginia, we have 2 interstates, 2 US highways, and 3 state routes that run through Charleston, making a total of only 7 highways. Here in the state of Wisconsin in Madison, we have 3 interstates, a lot of different US highways, and 2 state routes, making a total of 10 highways that run through Wisconsin. In the state of Wyoming and Cheyenne, we have 3 interstates. Technically, Interstate 180 should not be an interstate at all. It should just be Interstate 80 business. And 2 US highways, and 3 state routes, making a total of only 8 highways that run through Cheyenne. And those are all the... I hope you guys learned something new about how many different highways run through each of the state's capital. I was surprised by how many highways that run through like big cities. Like some of them only have like 10 or 12, while the others have like up in the lower 20s or high teens. So that was pretty surprising to me. So anyways, my next couple plans is that I will be doing my own special version of Interstate 26. And then we're going to be starting US 17 for the latter half of summer, or the dog's days of summer. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all then.